thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope you are all having an amazing day today. But that's right. It is Friday, December 8th, and today is National Crossword Solvers Day for all you smarty little bookworms out there. It's also Bodhi Day, National Salesperson Day, National Brownie Day, and I think this might be one of my favorites right here. Today is Pretend to be a Timetraveler Day, and we all know I know how to travel through time. But thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can use that bar down below on the screen to see where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, and now we are also streaming live to Twitch, Rumble, Twitter, and Facebook. So welcome to everyone joining us from any of those audiences. And we are going to kick it off today. That's right. Oh, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to start it off with Chris Eggers. He's former law enforcement who used to be a cop and a detective for the SFPD, and now he does cannabis security because you know they need it up there. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Chris Eggers.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, all of my correspondents, everyone listening. Jason, thank you so much. Hello. My article today, short article, but wanted to utilize some time and ask my correspondents a question afterwards. But my article today comes out of Culver City. 3 suspects sought in a robbery at a dispensary. Authorities said on Thursday that they need help. They need the public.
You got to mute, Dale. Dale, you got to mute. Keep going, Chris. Keep going, Chris. Just keep going.
Authorities on Thursday sought the public's help to find 3 suspects who robbed a man at gunpoint of about 120 pounds of marijuana outside a dispensary in Culver City. Wednesday at about 7:35 p.m. This occurred in the 3700 block of Robertson. The victim was unloading an estimated 120 pounds of marijuana when 2 suspects exited a vehicle with handguns and robbed him of the marijuana. There's a little bit of suspect description, a silver Honda, and ultimately this looks like a press release from the Culver City PD through local media asking the public's assistance. But really, I guess my question I wanted to bring up with this to my fellow correspondents, we're starting to see, I'm at least starting to see more of these types of stories being reported in the media this year, as opposed to what I believe was less last year that I saw. I see more of it in the media this year than last year. Certainly, this has been an ongoing problem and nothing new. It's not a new issue in the industry by any means. But my question would be, do you guys think that media more and more reporting on this is good or bad? One argument that it could be bad is that people, who ultimately aren't committing these crimes right now will start because they see that, this stuff is happening. The good argument could be that, it's good to get this information out so people are made aware. But I'm sure, and I know that people in the industry already are aware that this is an ongoing problem. So how do we feel about the media increasingly reporting on theft, robberies, and burglaries in the cannabis industry?
Well, I'll tell you what, if they didn't report on crime, thefts, and burglaries, we'd have a lot less news to report every day, Chris.
There you go.
just for starters.
Appreciate that comment. Yeah, I agree. I think, I think it's good that it's being reported on and, the general public is aware. But the one concern I have is, again, we have a retail theft problem in this country, period. This issue is not specific to the cannabis industry. And I don't want to see or hear the argument, that licensed cannabis businesses, bring in more crime. As we know, there's a high standard of security and cameras and things like that in the industry that law enforcement relies on outside of investigations related to cannabis. Specifically, hit and runs. I would always tell people when I was a footbeat officer in San Francisco on Market Street, keep a log of when law enforcement asks for your cameras, and use that as a data point in community meetings and things like that, because law enforcement does rely and is well aware that these businesses have, more cameras than typical retail or other types of businesses. And obviously, it's a requirement. So, there is a reliance on law enforcement, and they do utilize cannabis businesses on investigations, specifically and mostly in my experience related to hit and run and vehicle accidents and things like that. But as the media more and more reports on this, I think it's a net positive. But to be clear, my stance has always been that we have a retail theft problem in this country, and it's not specific to cannabis. I don't believe that cannabis businesses bring in additional crime, but it is important to report on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say, in regards to this story, I'm just kind of torn because they didn't really give descriptions other than their clothes.
Hold on, the descriptions were terrible.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, I understand, the stigma and everything. If it's an African American male or if it's a Latino male or whatever like that, I understand like the stigma and the rates and everything, and the overall psychological effect. You keep on hearing it's a black male, keep on hearing that it's a brown male doing this stuff. But if you can just say the assailants weren't found, rather than just saying, oh, they were wearing dark clothing and one was 6 foot, one was 5'8", like that really doesn't help anything at all, right? Just say like the assailants got away, or give the full description. I don't think I think that's just like bullshit, like reporting. I understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to alleviate, but just don't say anything like about the description at all, or give a proper description. If you really want the people to know this information, if you want these people to get caught, then you have to give an accurate description of who the assailants were.
I totally agree with you on that, Rico, because the reality of these descriptions is like one was wearing a black hoodie with
right.
white spots.
It could be anybody.
But it said black hoodie.
I'm wearing
with
a black
spots.
hoodie. Yeah. I'm wearing a black hoodie. So this is, I think it's an important point at how we're describing it, but it's also incumbent upon perhaps reporters who are overworked and often are not doing their homework, that there are two key issues here. You said it first, Chris. The chief of police of Los Angeles a few years ago, when we were trying to control, tax, and regulate cannabis for adult use, said, oh, crime goes up around dispensaries. And then he did a study and discovered crime went down around dispensaries. And then he actually went on the news and said, you know what, I was wrong, which I almost fell over. But the fact is he admitted he was wrong, that crime goes down, property crime, crimes against others, muggings, because you now have eyes on the street walking the block to make sure that crime isn't happening to the dispensary. So overall, crime goes down. However, especially here in California, Prop 47, which we were supportive of in spirit, but the second thing that Chris said is this is a problem across the board when it happens to banks, when it happens to jewelry stores, when it happens to convenience stores, and certainly when it happens to cannabis dispensaries. The difference between all of those is we don't have safe banking. And I think that needs to be underlined with an exclamation point every time we have this conversation about crime, whether it's to the dispensary or their customers. And at the end of the day, Oaksterdam has turned over tape hundreds of times to law enforcement for muggings, other property crimes around us, for exactly the same reason that you just said, is we will not abide crimes against others and violent crime. Cannabis isn't the crime. And let's help our community law enforcement end it. But if you're shoveling shit into the tide and you arrest them and they're released and there's no consequences, this is now how people make a living. And the larger issue also needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know it's up in Northern California. It's crazy. It is crazy up there, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse with the wealth gap widening. And listen, I understand. I'm a big data person myself. I understand like the broad data implications, and it'll be good in the long term for communities of color. With was it Prop 47? I want to say when they raised the limit for theft that you can actually get popped for, go to jail for. But like right now in these economic times, like it isn't doing nobody good, and these cats are just getting right back on the streets and doing the same shit over and over and over again, and it ain't safe. As a father of a young daughter right now, like I'm thinking about getting the fuck out of California because I can't properly protect my family right now. Mm-hmm. With the necessary measures that I was brought up to know that will protect my family. I can't do that legally here, and I feel like it's not a fair fight right now.
That law is across the country, though, my friend. That's an ATF policy, so you are not legally allowed to protect your family anywhere you live.
No. California,
fire with fire in other states. Yeah. In the guns that I have legally in other states, like I can't legally have here. And these are the guns that are readily available on the streets for these criminals. And a lot of them, like, they have no other option. They can't afford to live in LA. They can't afford to live in San Francisco. And so they get it how they're gonna get it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are getting caught up. A lot of people are getting popped right now, and it's just not a fair fight.
Look at that one guy
in
LA.
Biden just got popped for having a gun and drugs. It's not legal anywhere in the country. I don't care who you are. Right now, we do not have Second Amendment protections.
That's not the bigger problem. The bigger problem is the fact that you can't protect yourself even in those situations in the state of California right now. We just have that one guy. He was a distro operator. He was all over the news a little while ago. He had a home invasion robbery, okay, and then he started shooting at him, and now he's getting charged with it
because he's not allowed to have a gun because he is a marijuana. Like there's two different. Look, the streams have crossed here. Okay, they're both a problem, and I'm not saying that what you are describing isn't also a problem. But at the end of the day, no citizen in America has their Second Amendment right, full stop, because of the current policies. So you can say California versus Arkansas, but at the end of the day, none of us are allowed to have a gun to protect ourselves because we are cannabis consumers or we are in the business of cannabis.
Well, yes, Dale, I would take it a step further with my argument. I'm saying as a California citizen, when these young guys and gals are running around in the streets and they're doing armed robbery and shit like that, it's not a fair fight. You cannot legally have in California the same type of heat, the same type of equipment to protect yourself as a citizen. If you take the cannabis out of it, let's just say I don't smoke weed at all, I'm a legal gun owner, you do not have the same equipment as these people do on the streets.
That part.
And you cannot properly protect your home, protect your family like you can in other states in California. And that's how I feel, as a father living in this city. It's like, I'm always on high alert, and I don't like being like that. I'm not a high-strung person.
Open, my friend. Like I feel you.
Yeah. I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's even worse up. It's even worse up north. Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy times we're living in right now, and there's not enough money and opportunity for people at the bottom. So you know how they get it? They see these nice cars, they see this nice shit everywhere. I'm seeing the YSL store getting run up on Rodeo Drive.
Yep.
Right now, it's not just like a little petty theft no more. Like they know exactly what the amount is, where they won't be popped for a felony, they won't be held for that, and they keep on doing it over and over and over again. I've seen people getting shot at. I see I actually moved out of South Central, and I saw less action in South Central than I have recently when I moved to Gardena.
There's like a street code in South Central. There's no code anymore of no honor among thieves.
The game's all messed up, and the cops ain't coming quick enough, and the cops, for some reason, there's a management problem. You can speak to this, Chris. There's a management problem with police. There's because it's all decentralized. It's just not. It's everything's messed up right now.
Yeah, there's a, internally within law enforcement, they call it, and they would never admit to this, but behind the curtain, I can tell you, they call it the fireman mentality, which is, I'm going to sit at the station until I get a call. And if it's a top priority call, they got to go, 1 or an A priority. Anything like a 2 or 3 or a B or a C, a sergeant's not going to be, pushing officers out the door. And just walk by, Tenderloin Station, walk by Central Station in San Francisco and look at all of the patrol cars, not patrolling, but, in front of the station. And, that's what they call it inside is, fireman mentality.
What they call it in Oakland and San Fran, bipping. Yeah. Getting bipped.
They got bipping down here in LA now,
knock out the windows and pull shit out of the cars. They're doing that shit in front of cops.
Yeah.
And I've seen like multiple videos on IG, on YouTube and stuff. Like right in front of the police.
That's because if it's not
into vehicles.
That's because if they're not stealing more than $1,000, then there's no crime.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, was it like 900? Is like the limit. They know
$1,000, $999. It's insane.
I don't listen, man. Like I do not feel safe, and I feel like if some shit like that goes down, I'm gonna end up doing life in prison and not being there for my family because I will end up doing something else. I will end up retaliating.
Yeah, and so just a quick note on this story, Chris. You mentioned theft, spikes in retail theft, and this place that was robbed is a dispensary. But if you notice, it was all bulk flower that was purchased, and so this is actually a micro license. So this was actually the distro that was robbed, as opposed to the actual retail store. And so I think that's an important distinction for people to understand, because in cannabis,
Jason, thank you for making that.
In cannabis, we have an epidemic of people robbing distribution facilities and cultivations, not necessarily just standalone retails.
And that's for the drugs, not the cash, because there's not a lot of cash there.
No.
And I've said this before, and it's okay. I mean, I totally understand if people disagree, but in my experience, burglaries, especially the after-hour burglaries, I'm not talking robberies, I'm not talking like a related to the story, but after-hour burglaries, in our experience, people are after the product first and then the cash second. And so, I'm safe banking, certainly will help to some degree, but there is, Jason well said, distros are getting hit, left and right, and people are after the product.
That's the target. You're not going to steal packaged eighths, because that's way too much bulk to carry around and try to resell. You're trying to go after bulk pounds, because that's the easiest thing to sell on the streets. And on that, we got to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back. Sick of the December cold? Then fly out to Miami in December for Terp Basil, December 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Presented by Sherbinski's at Skatebird in Miami, with tons of your favorite brands in attendance for this 4-day event, as well as Hyatt 9 News as one of the media partners. With live performances throughout the week by Dead Prez, Mayday, Visions Band, and Washi Fire. So, do like the birds and fly south to Miami for Terp Basil this winter, December 7th through the 10th in Miami, Florida.
Link to that. I appreciate it.
And we're back.
Up next. You up next, Jason?
Sure, why not?
We
can go to someone else. It don't matter. Let's go.
Let's go. I want to hear.
Oh, you want to hear about
the
this?
Hyatt 9 head honcho, known for smoking the best weed in the world, the unwavering support of freaks, demagogues, and
greatest presidents in the history of America.
Those addicted to deep hue spray tans. Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah, man. Man, you should have seen all the street interviews I saw last night, where people were asking who they're going to be voting for in this next election, and you wouldn't believe the streets were in unanimous support of someone. I'll let you guys take a guess on who that is, but nonetheless.
I wonder why, because he's going to let more pandemonium go down.
Oh, God, stop the cap. All right, but nonetheless, you guys, here's the story. Here we go, because the feds release a 250-plus pages of redacted documents on marijuana rescheduling recommendation detailing cannabis medical value. That's right. More than 3 months after the news leaked that the U.S. Health and Human Services Department, the HHS, was recommending that marijuana be moved to Schedule 3 under the Federal Controlled Substances Act, the CSA, the agency was finally released a trachée of documents related to its recommendation and the detailed review it undertook on cannabis accepted medical value. Among the materials made public are correspondence from HHS officials to Drug Enforcement Administration's DEA Administrator Annie Milligram. That's a great name for her, Annie Milligram, as well as explanations of the health agency's reasoning for the recommended change after conducting a required 8-factor analysis under the CSA. Most pages are heavily redacted, however, and some were totally withheld completely. The documents were posted online on Thursday by attorneys Shane Pennington and Matt Zorn, co-authors of the blog on drugs, and Zorn previously submitted a request under the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, to obtain these records. In a quote, he says, "We haven't had a chance to wade through it all," the two lawyers wrote, "but we are putting it up here now and we'll follow up as soon as we've studied everything more deeply," they say. In response to the FOIA request, HHS reviewed 252 pages of records, releasing just 2 pages in their entirety. Another 236 were redacted in part, while 14 pages were withheld completely. Broadly, the documents outline new scientific information that came to light in recent years subsequent to an earlier denial of a rescheduling petition, which HHS suggests might now necessitate rescheduling marijuana. In a quote, "The current review is largely focused on modern scientific considerations on whether marijuana has a CAMU, which is CAMU, currently accepted medical use is what that stands for, and on new epidemiological data related to the abuse of marijuana in the years since 2015. HHS, the evaluation of marijuana under the CSA's 8-factor analysis. HHS also notes that it analyzed considerable data related to the abuse potential of marijuana, but added that it's a complicated consideration." I bet it is. "Determining the abuse potential of a substance is complex with many dimensions," HHS wrote, "and no single test or assessment provides a complete characterization. Thus, no single measure of abuse potential is ideal." And that's in quotes from the HHS as well. Most subsequent pages of the document were withheld completely, and HHS's Director of FOIA Appeals and Litigations said in a letter to Zorn that the sections were redacted pursuant to provisions of FOIA law that exempts intra-agency memorandums or letters that would not be available by law to a party other than an agency in litigation with the agency. Excuse me. In October, HHS released a highly redacted version of the one-page letter from the health agency to DEA in response to public records requests by news organizations such as Marijuana Moment and lawyers including Zorn, with the rescheduling recommendations now in the DEA's hands. Many are watching closely for updates, while the Congressional Research Services, CRS, recently conducted that it was likely that the DEA would follow the HHS recommendations based on past precedent, but DEA reserves the right to disregard with the health agency's advice because it has final jurisdiction over the CSA, you guys. That's right. Earlier this week, the governors of 6 states, Colorado, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Louisiana, sent a letter to President Joe Biden urging the administration to reschedule marijuana by the end of this year. In a quote, "Rescheduling cannabis aligns with safe, regulated product that Americans can trust," says the governor's letter, which points to a poll that found 88% of Americans support legalization for medical or adult use purposes. And in quotes, "As governors, we might disagree about whether recreational cannabis legalization or even cannabis use is a net positive, but we agree that the cannabis industry is here to stay. The states have created strong regulations, and supporting the state-regulated marketplace is essential for the safety of the American people. The office of the Colorado Governor Jared Polis, who led the group letter, said rescheduling will not only alleviate the financial and safety concerns for businesses, but allow a thriving industry to play a full role in the American business environment. One of the first state officials to react to this HHS rescheduling recommendation, Polis told Biden in a letter in September that while he expects DEA will expeditiously complete its review and move marijuana to Schedule 3, the policy change may be coupled with further administrative and congressional action to promote health, safety, and economic growth. Meanwhile, 6 former DEA heads and former White House drug czars sent in a letter to Attorney General and the current DEA administrator voicing opposition to the top federal health agency's recommendation to reschedule marijuana. They also made a questionable claim about the relationships between drug schedules and criminal penalties in a way that could exaggerate the potential impact of the incremental reform. Signatories include DEA and Office of National Drug Control Policy heads under multiple administrations led by presidents of both major parties, and in October, advocates and lawmakers who support cannabis reform marked the 1-year anniversary of Biden's mass marijuana pardon and scheduling directive this month by calling him to do more, including by expanding the scope of relief that his pardon had by expressly supporting federal legalization. And 2 GOP senators, including the lead Republican sponsor of a marijuana banking bill that cleared a Cure committee last month, recently filed new legislation to prevent federal agencies from rescheduling cannabis without tacit approval from Congress. A coalition of 14 Republican congressional lawmakers, meanwhile, is urging the DEA to reject the top federal health agency's recommendation to reschedule marijuana and instead keep it in the most restrictive category under the CSA. And I must say, in this situation, I agree with these 14 Republican lawmakers and the DEA as far as keeping it as a Schedule 1 in lieu of moving it to Schedule 3. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think?
I agree with you. I am not a fan of Schedule 3. I will recognize that your President Trump did absolutely in changing the rules because of hemp. CBD has failed the 8-factor test, and the DEA has to change its definition away from all constituents. I would like to draw our attention to the States Act 2.0, which removes cannabis from Schedule 1 and the DEA's purview entirely, if anyone is looking for something to support rather than...
You're talking about the States Reform Act, the Nancy Mace bill, right?
The States Act 2.0. And actually, hold on, let me pull it up for you
Okay.
Here, I have it. It was Representative David Joyce, joined by 4 colleagues: Earl Blumenauer of Oregon, Brian Mast of Florida, Lori Chavez de Remer of Oregon, and Troy Carter of Louisiana, introduced a revised version of the Strengthening the 10th Amendment Through Entrusting States Act, otherwise known as the States Act. As the name implies, the bill seeks to bring U.S. marijuana policy more in line with the 10th Amendment and federalism, and it will remove marijuana as a substance covered by the Federal Controlled Substances Act.
So it would deschedule cannabis.
Yes, sir, and that is what we should still be asking for, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Because if not, we gonna bust.
Just dropped this week, so you haven't heard about it yet. Maybe that should have been my news story. Damn it.
No,
let's make sure we have that at the top of the week next week.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I would definitely want to talk about that because that's a new bill that sounds interesting, and I'm glad to see some evolution on their parts in regards to this. Adam, where did you go? Oh, we got some shit going on over here, Adam.
I'm all the way over here.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm all the way over here.
Don't worry, we're moving you back in frame, bro. You're back. Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys.
I'm like we're sitting in Mr. Talleyrand, Dr. Talleyrand's
lap. Yeah, the close up on Dr. T right there.
Yeah. Sorry about that,
it's like
guys.
Sitting in Santa's lap.
Yes. Yeah. We apologize for the inconvenience.
How long ago was this now? Was it 6 months? They gave that recommendation, man. Like I said yesterday, like the Republicans are picking up this, and if Biden does not make a move one way or another, at least give some lip service to moving in one way or the other. Like 45 is ever the opportunist, whether he believes in one thing or not. I don't think he believes in anything, but he does go with the sentiment of the crowd. He goes with what the crowd tells him to go with, and I could see him hijacking the cannabis argument
for the people.
Yeah, and what else is Joe Biden or the Democrats going to have as a positive note going into next year's election?
I don't know, health rights for women, but also just as the only one.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, just saying, it definitely matters. But we'll find out on Monday, because that is when this is due. Monday, the 12th.
Well,
stay tuned.
Sweet. Look, we're gonna have some spice to talk about. You got any thoughts on this, Dr. T or Dr. Mark?
Oh, it sounds like bullshit lip service to me.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There's some spice right there.
Yeah, it's nice and cold up there. Up there
frozen
in New
tundra
England.
of Vermont. Yeah.
Is that Latin, Dr. Mark? It sounds scientific.
Sorry? Say that again?
I asked if that was Latin from your medical training.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it just seems like, everyone's got a bill in Congress and everyone's talking about, rescheduling. Rescheduling is not feasible. It tells you how not clued in they are, because you can't dispense Schedule III substances in the way that the cannabis industry works right now. So they would have to make an exception for the dispensing of Schedule III cannabis.
They're not going to do
right?
that.
And
they're not going to do that.
And Schedule III drugs are made by FDA-registered facilities that have GMP protocols in place, and there's really few and far between in the cannabis industry. And people are striving to get to GMP, but GMP, there's a high economic hurdle to it because it requires a lot of internal analytics and testing capabilities that these cannabis companies just can't afford, because they're just running from pillar to post right now just to stay in business, let alone try to get GMP certified. So where they should be focusing this is on the hemp-derived cannabinoids, because indeed, these things aren't extracted from plant sources. These things are being made as active ingredients that are being included into products without the regulatory oversight that's mandatory in the rest of the cannabis industry. Mm-hmm. So there's really not a level playing field. And if you believe the economics, the larger addressable market of the psychoactive hemp just completely dwarfs the cannabis industry. All the state businesses combined can't even hold a candle. It's like an order of magnitude difference. There's billions of dollars being made in this psychoactive cannabis or psychoactive hemp thing, and all the government did was kick the can down the road.
Yep.
So this thing is just going to continue for another year.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, you know what I mean? But I'm with the DEA on this, and I hope that they don't reschedule at all. I hope that that's my hope. I do not want to see cannabis move to Schedule 3, because it'll be an absolute nightmare for everybody. But on that, we got to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right into the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the man that's all smiles until the shit is going down. And that's right, it is none other than the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Thank you, Jason. A lot of crazy things have gone down this week. Salacious headlines, scandals, folks getting caught up for pushing big packs illegally, snitch allegations thrown at industry staples. The first week of December's industry news has not been boring at all. And I don't want to take away from all the other big headlines we've been covering, but I felt the need to cover today a little bit of positivity. For a couple of reasons. Number one, headlines crazy relatable given the circumstances we've been talking about so far on the show today. Then also surrounding this case. And number two, it's finally a positive follow-up to one of the first stories that I actually covered in this news and opinion lane over the last 3 years of reading the top industry headlines with Jason, even though we were under another label at the time. So let's get into it. 3.5 years ago, May 2020, 34-year-old LaRue Bratcher, an OKC-based father of 5, U.S. Army veteran, and licensed grower in the state of Oklahoma, was charged with first-degree murder for shooting and killing 42-year-old Daniel Hardwick, an armed assailant who had broken into his cultivation facility in an attempted burglary gone wrong. Bratcher called 911 after the shooting Hardwick, and says that he was attempting to fire warning shots, but one ricocheted, striking the burglar, eventually leading to his death. It was the second night in a row that Hardwick had attempted to break into Bratcher's shop. Understandably, he was rattled after attempt number 1. Bratcher was on watch, locked and loaded, and prepared to defend his property. Court documents show Bratcher grabbed his gun when he heard someone at the back door and asked the stranger what he was doing before firing 3 shots. Bratcher told the police at the time that the door was locked and secured when he started shooting. Officers contacted the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority to ensure Bratcher's business was legal, but discovered his license had been expired. It expired January 1st, and he had failed to properly secure a renewal. So they arrested and booked him for growing without a license. He set his bond at $5,000, and the district attorney's office charged him with second-degree murder. Out on bond, home chilling with his wife, Vicky, and his 6-month-old daughter was in his arms. Police stormed in, aimed the guns in both parents' faces, and ended up taking LaRue back in with updated first-degree murder charges. Local reports of the incident painted Bratcher as a cold-blooded, murderous trap farmer in illegal possession of $1.5 million worth of marijuana with intent to distribute with 480 plants on his property without proper licenses. Authorities claimed Oklahoma's self-defense laws did not protect Bratcher because he was operating under a lapsed license. 3 years later, after successfully negotiating an Alford plea this February, meaning he accepted but did not plead guilty to the charge of manslaughter by resisting criminal attempt, Bratcher's first-degree murder charge was downgraded back to second, and he was still facing manslaughter, unlawful cultivation of a controlled dangerous substance, possession of a controlled dangerous substance, and possession of a weapon while committing a felony. He's been awaiting sentencing since, and news broke yesterday that Bratcher's second-degree murder charge was dismissed, and the 4 other charges were suspended, and he'll now serve just 10 years of probation. Can I get a round of applause for that, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
There's the feel-good story.
I'm almost let me finish here. I'm going to get a little emotional here, you know what I'm saying? So definitely not the complete vindication many believe that he deserves, but he can now rest easy at home for the holidays with his family. And this one really hit home for me when it went down. My own daughter was just a month old at the time. We're at the height of the pandemic and everyone was on high alert. And to see another black man in our industry to go through this kind of shit in a state that most other cases side with, citizens lawfully exercising their Second Amendment rights. He was just trying to feed his family after the state was actually delayed the renewal of his license due to COVID administrative backlogs. It hit hard for me at the time, and I'm just happy to see this, man. I'm trying not to get too emotional on this, but it really, really hit hard, and I really wish LaRue, his wife Vicky, and their beautiful family nothing but the best of wishes going forward, and whether they decide to stay in the game or not, that they ultimately find peace and get a chance to live the rest of their days together as drama-free as possible. Big love to the Bratchers and prayers out to everybody else finding themselves in similar situations. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. Y'all can have it now. Man. Big love.
Man, big props to this gentleman and to his family. They've had to endure a lot, and we don't want to send nothing but love and congratulations to them. He gets to be home with his family for the holidays, and that's a real big deal right there.
Yeah, man. We'll have to see that. He's going to be home with his family, and it's a very, very unfortunate case, man. Like, protecting his family, protecting his investment, protecting everything, and he didn't get his license renewed. He didn't get his license renewed, and it was all backlogged in as well. So, dude tried 2 nights in a row, right, to break in and burglarize his place, and he wasn't even trying to shoot and kill him, and ended up killing him, and he was facing life in prison for something like this. But he's home. That's
right. And this is in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just California there, is it, friends?
Well, Oklahoma does have the best laws for gun carrying and cannabis together.
And in cannabis too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, together.
If you are properly licensed.
Yes, they have the best. They have the best framework. Go for it.
Well, and it is the difference with administrative issues as well. And these administrative issues and backlogs have caused a litany of knock-on effects for a lot of operators, not being able to get grants, not being able to get insurance. This was one of the worst examples, and I just really appreciate good news on a Friday. Thank you, Rico.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And on that good note, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we will appreciate it. YouTube will appreciate it. And you inside of your heart will appreciate it as well. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And all of the articles that you see on that we talk about and discuss on the show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. You with us, Rico?
Yeah, I mean, it's showing that you were supposed to be introing, but I can do it, man. So
really,
up next, we have your doctor, one of the true OGs in the game, and he is up there, co-founder of CESC, and always bringing the data, bringing the heat, and bringing the education to the masses. My favorite man, and if I ever get a license, if I ever get a medical card again, I'm coming to see Dr. Jean Talleyrand. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
What you got for us today, Dr. T?
Oh, shit. I think Dr. T is frozen, bro.
He appears to be in the Matrix.
Yes, he's frozen. He's in the Matrix. So let's skip on. Let's skip over to Dr. Mark, and we'll come back to Dr. T when he breaks out of the Matrix.
Is he back?
Are you there, Dr. T? Well, there he goes. We're having some internet difficulties, Dr. T.
Dr. T, I think you got locked up in that triangle that Zod got locked up in.
Yes.
And Superman, Zod got trapped in at the. He's in there writing him a wreck.
Oh man. Oh boy.
So okay, let's go to the opposite end of the country. Let's go to the opposite end of the country. We have the man, the myth, the legend out there popping those booth cart peddlers and always breaking us down with a little science lesson of the week. Dr. Mark Scialdone. What you got for us, Dr. Mark?
Hey, thanks, Rico. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Am I stuck inside the Illuminati?
That part.
No, I'm okay. You guys can hear me. Great. Well, happy Friday, everyone. My story today comes from High Times, and it's entitled "Hemp Cannabinoids Could Be the Source of New Pesticides." A new study by researchers at Cornell University has found that cannabinoids could one day have applications as natural pesticides. Recent research into the potential uses of hemp shows that cannabinoids produced in the plant could one day be the source of new natural pesticides, according to researchers at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. The study by scientists at the School of Integrative Plant Science at Cornell Agritech's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, which they have a cool acronym, CALS, C-A-L-S, found that higher concentrations of cannabinoids in leaves of hemp plants showed less damage from chewing insects compared with other leaves that were less rich in cannabinoids. The researchers hope that the study further study could build on these initial findings to eventually produce new natural insecticides, most likely for use on non-edible plants only. The potential for using new pesticides on food crops seems highly unlikely at this point because of the pharmacological effects of cannabinoids, including CBDA, THCA, they say GBGA, which I'm absolutely certain they mean CBGA, which can be converted into THC, CBD, and CBG, respectively, with the addition of heat in a process known as decarboxylation. Larry Smart, a plant breeder and professor at CALS, says that the researchers have identified the intoxicating and medicinal effects of cannabinoids that are produced exclusively in cannabis plants since the compounds were first identified decades ago. But little research has been conducted to determine exactly why cannabis plants develop these compounds with more than more than 100 distinct substances. It has been speculated that these are defense compounds because they're primarily accumulating in the female flowers to protect seeds, which is fairly common in plants, Smart said. The senior author of the study, according to the report in Hemp Today. But no one has put together a comprehensive set of experimental results to show the direct relationship between the accumulation of these cannabinoids and their harmful effects to insects. The research was conducted as part of Cornell's hemp breeding program, which was launched by the Ivy League University in upstate New York in 2017. The program began its work by evaluating different commercially available hemp cultivars so recommendations could be made to farmers about what varieties are best to suit local soil and climate. The researchers noticed that varieties of hemp from a breeding program in the Ukraine, that's very interesting, strains from the Ukraine, did not produce cannabinoids but were highly susceptible to damage from Japanese beetles. Oh yeah, Japanese beetles will tear that stuff up. Other hemp varietals that produce cannabinoids were not similarly prone to the damage from the insects. The absence of cannabinoids, we saw heavy insect damage, and the presence of cannabinoids, we saw much less insect damage, said Smart. The researchers then isolated CBDA and CBGA for use in controlled insect feeding studies. THCA was not a part of the research because of the federal limits on THC that prevents Cornell researchers from working with the compound. The cannabinoid extracts were added to artificial insect diet in varying concentrations, and the researchers found that the insect larvae grew less and had lower rates of survival as the concentration of cannabinoids were increased. So that shows what's called a dose-response effect. The higher the dose of cannabinoids, the more potency their insecticidal action was. The study gives us insight into how cannabinoids function in natural systems and can help us develop new THC-compliant cultivars that maintain these natural built-in defenses against herbivores, said George Stack, a postdoctoral researcher in Smart's lab and one of the authors of the study. The researchers plan on further investigation to determine if sap-sucking insects such as aphids are also adversely affected by cannabinoids. However, Stack noted that the research is hindered by the continued illegality of marijuana at the federal level. The potential use of cannabinoids as a pesticide is an exciting area for the future, but there will certainly be regulatory barriers due to pharmacological activity of the compounds, and we need and more studies are needed to understand what pest cannabinoids will be effective, Stack said. The study cannabinoids as in defense as chewing herbivores in cannabis was published in October in the peer-reviewed journal Horticulture Research. So this is super, super interesting because I think we know that cannabinoids are safe for humans. So certainly if you develop pesticides, and pesticides are nasty chemicals that kill bugs and keep bugs from destroying plants and food crops and whatnot, if we could use cannabinoids in replace of these other insecticides, we know that even though they point out in the article it probably won't be applied to food products, well, that's because of the whole, ooh, these are cannabinoids and it might be scary. What makes a insecticide today is not necessarily a compound that kills bugs, but it's a compound that, when applied, kills the bugs, but by the time that food and produce makes it to market, the pesticide has been either degraded by sunlight or been degraded by hydrolysis from rainwater, so a lot of these insecticides are built to fall apart. They're built to sort of have their action when the farmer sprays them, but then ultimately not have contaminated residuals in the food that you're trying to protect. But I see this as a very exciting development, and one of the other reasons why they need the government to delist cannabis, because obviously cannabis's illegality kind of hampers this kind of research. But this is very, very important research and might provide value to other markets for cannabinoids other than human consumption. If we could replace toxic pesticides that are basically not only killing bugs but killing the soil to which they're applied, and we could replace that with cannabinoids. We know that cannabinoids make good bug food eventually, and they're degraded by bacteria and soil bacteria and whatnot. So I think that products that would be using this technology would ultimately be safe and provide more value to farmers who raise cannabis for a living. So that's my thoughts here on the shores of Lake Champlain on this wonderful Friday afternoon. I'd be interested in what my other correspondents have to say here on High at 9 News.
Is there sex in the Champlain room?
Champlain was a French explorer who thought he discovered a lake that natives knew about for many years. So
yeah, it doesn't count though until a white man finds it or says it out loud, right?
That's right. But they certainly get to name the lake after him, and they've named the university after him. And
mm-hmm. I think this is a fantastic story.
Colonizers.
This is a fantastic story, Dr. Mark, and I'm so glad that you shared this with us, because I don't think we would have found it without you covering this.
Well, and this is
It's really cool to think that, again, there's cannabis varieties that because of the terpene expression profile in those varieties, they're less susceptible to different pests like powdery mildew. And so what we find is that, there's a reason why these compounds evolved in the glandular trichomes of the plant. I think it was to attract humans, and I've said this all before, while it's true that terpenes drew humans to cannabis, it was the cannabinoids that made them stay. So, the cannabinoids could have this insecticidal activity. They're antifungal, they have antibacterial activity, and so we know that these things, like vitamins, serve many roles in their interaction with biological systems. It would be great if we could replace a synthetic pesticide product being sold by Syngenta, Bayer, or DuPont with a CBD or THC or CBG kind of molecule. That would just be wonderful.
Our horticulture instructors have been teaching these concepts for 2 decades about it helping. It's also with a bit of sun protection, but absolutely insecticide. The THC helps repel insects. And I want to really underline 2 things. Number one, aphids love cannabis, so I would question that one. But how repellent they are with aphids. But with respect to food, you underlined the use of cannabinoid or just the effect of pesticides on food. And foods that we commonly consume, these pesticides that are approved, are to eat the food, not to set it on fire and inhale it, mainlining it into your bloodstream, crossing the blood-brain barrier. And so we also really have to take a look at the method of ingestion, because what's safe for food in your cast iron stomach that can handle just about anything is not the same for your lungs. It's not designed to be that same barrier against a lot of these poisons we commonly consume. And so the idea of being able to utilize cannabinoid-based pesticides for cannabis as well is exciting, because this is an issue as states outlaw, and in some cases they should, because it's not been properly investigated in this context that I just mentioned of how humans are consuming it, that we really have an opportunity to change our entire food system and health of where we grow our food and the food web. It's really mind-blowing, and it's also just kind of fucking infuriating that we have blocked this research for so long and gone the other direction that is just killing our planet and ourselves slowly. More quickly.
Well, and you got to believe that this too provides evidence that there's an endocannabinoid system in these insects, and somehow these compounds are acting on it in a way that the insects don't like. Maybe they get disoriented, or maybe they can't find their next meal and they die,
Every vertebrate and invertebrate that we have studied, including plants, have at the very least rudimentary endocannabinoid systems. And the oldest living creature on Earth, the hydra, it's like a jellyfish-looking thing that lives in the sea, is something like over 96% similar to our own. We all have an endocannabinoid system, and I completely agree with you. I think the research opportunities, the business opportunities, the pharmacological opportunities, can we not keep it illegal for just adult use at the same time that we study all of these amazing things, is my question.
Yes. I mean, I feel you, Dale. But I really, really love this story. This is great. I think we got to go to a commercial, though, and we're going to be right back. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smokey Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smokey Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smokey Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched, and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go. Woo!
Up next, we got a legendary Mary Mama in the house, out here representing Oaksterdam University as the executive chancellor. Madam Chancellor, what do you have for us today? Miss Dale Sky Jones.
Thank you, Yo Daddy. I am the Marijuana Mama, and I am here today to talk about New Jersey, which is very close to my heart right now. Working with the Economic Development Authority. New Jersey legal weed is flying off the shelves, but there is a catch, and this is touching on the good doctor's story, I think. It wasn't that long ago that a medical marijuana card was the only way to purchase legal cannabis in New Jersey. Nearly 2 years after dispensaries opened up for adult use cannabis sales, medicinal cannabis has become an afterthought to consumers. More than $206 million was spent on cannabis in New Jersey in the third quarter of 2023. That's $206 million in 3 months, with almost $177 million going towards adult use purchases, according to statistics recently released by New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Medical marijuana, which until April of 2022 was the only kind of legal cannabis available in New Jersey, has become a smaller and smaller part of the market since then. In the third quarter, medical marijuana patients spent just about $29 million, less than half of the amount spent in the third quarter last year. We're seeing patients roll coming down slightly over time, and additionally, the sales lessening as well. That's what the CRC Executive Director Jeff Brown said at the Commission's December 7th meeting. Increasing adult use cannabis sales at the expense of medical marijuana sales aren't surprising. The adult use market has grown by about 10% each quarter this year, while the number of medical marijuana patients has plummeted to less than 94,000, down from an all-time high of more than 128,000 in April of 22. New Jersey dispensaries are required to offer extra benefits to medical marijuana patients, such as patient-only hours and parking, designated checkout lanes, and even separate menus and product inventory. But the financial benefits are minimal. Medicinal cannabis purchases are tax-free, but New Jersey has among the lowest cannabis taxes in the country. Go New Jersey, with a 6.625 sales tax, and that's on everything you buy in New Jersey, and a $1.52 per ounce social equity excise fee. On Zenleaf's Neptune's medicinal menu, an eighth ounce of Indian landrace cannabis cost $60 as of December 7th. On the adult use menu, the same product was $65.18 after taxes. In other states, adult use cannabis customers can pay excise taxes of over 20%. So tax-free shopping presents a much greater benefit to patients with the medical marijuana cards in those states. Amidst that decline in patient rolls and medical marijuana sales, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission lowered registration and renewal to just $10 for every 2 years and a free digital identification card for patients. That is really low barrier to entry. Thank you, New Jersey. Registration and renewal fees had previously been $50 for most patients or $20 for seniors and other qualifications. Many patients face barriers to accessing treatment due to costs like paying out of pocket for doctor's visits and the cost of cannabis, the CRC, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission Executive Director said in a statement. New Jersey CRC is doing everything in our power to eliminate as many barriers as possible to ensure those who can benefit from cannabis treatment remain in the program. And I selected this story very specifically to talk through with the good doctors and Dr. Talleyrand because, I recognize that this is a grave concern in many states, while New Jersey is doing what they can to I like the ideas of how they are putting patients first in New Jersey, and I think there's more ways that states can do that. I'm curious, Dr. Talleyrand, what you think.
Well, the adult use issues are, I wasn't for it in California because the fact that it didn't really provide a clear path for the medical patient to continue to do what they were doing. And it sounds like there's similar things happening in New Jersey. I didn't completely hear the story, but it sounds like the similar things are happening in New Jersey. And I believe the same thing is happening in Florida. So, the plight of the patient is always my concern. And what's happening here is problematic for the patient, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think that was a point back in the day that we did disagree on, because I had felt that patients going to jail was worse for their health, and better to just take the target off of them so that no one was being arrested, adults or patients, because so many adults really are patients. That said, it wasn't to step on the patients in order to get to the adult use opportunities, and that is unfortunately what's happened. We forgot whose shoulders we stand on, that this is medicine first, and that medicinal patients do need special protections, cheaper prices. Like, are there ways to recognize if you're on Medicare or Medi-Cal or similar, food stamp, SNAP programs, things along those lines, that you can just simply, if you're a veteran, that you can just simply get reduced cost medicine, that there are ways for even the taxes to account for medicinal use by not just not charging sales tax, but actually supplementing the cost for poor patients. That's what I would like to see next. And also for tax write-offs if you donate.
I completely agree. And I don't think I'll have a chance to read my story, but if you go look at the story, you'll see that Florida is battling exactly this, and the medical companies are saying no to adult use because of what the adult use laws are doing. They're sort of reducing patient privacy, they're mandating certain dosages, so they're removing the freedom of the patient to use cannabis as medicine for legalization reasons, adult use reasons. Let's call it.
And also to protect their oligarchy, but yes.
Dr. T, can you go into your story a bit?
What's that?
Can you go into your story a bit, Dr. T?
Oh, sure. Okay, let me see. So my headline today is from Marijuana Moment. Florida medical cannabis company asks court to block legalization initiative that would significantly impact its business and patients, by Kyle Yeager. So this story reminds me of California before adult use legalization initiative, when cannabis was a movement and not yet an industry. So a Florida medical cannabis certification company is seeking to block an adult use cannabis initiative in the state Supreme Court, arguing that reform disproportionately prioritizes profits from recreational sales and that it would significantly impact our business operations and the well-being of our clients, according to the CEO of My Florida Green, which is the certification group. The court has been receiving briefs from the state attorney general, Ashley Moody, who's against the initiative, and the Smart and Safe campaign, mostly supported by TrueLeave, who is for the initiative. So My Florida Green, a service that connects patients seeking medical cannabis cards to doctors, is asking the court to allow it to submit an amicus curiae brief contesting the initiative. The company says it's not opposed to adult use legalization in principle, but it's arguing that there are potential consequences that would impact patient care and public health. So that's what we were just talking about. While the brief lays out a series of legal considerations, some may question the idea of medical cannabis company advocating against an adult use expansion, which may reduce demand for services such as those offered by My Florida Green. States that legalize cannabis generally see adult use sales eclipse those for medical cannabis use as the market evolves. Garrelay, the CEO of My Florida Green, told Marijuana Moment in a phone interview that while he can 100% understand why people might assume there's a financial element to the complaint, they couldn't be any more wrong. I'm in the trenches, he said. I'm literally dealing with these people on a daily basis to service their needs. We help people alleviate their symptoms. We help people get off or reduce the need for prescription drugs. We help people reduce the need for alcohol, improve their quality of sleep, lower their anxiety, and improve their quality of life. So the notice argues that the adult use initiative may infringe upon individual privacy rights and equal protection under the law by requiring medical disclosures and dosage restrictions. The brief calls into question the objective of the amendment in that it contradicts the initial medical law that is intended to promote the health and wellness of the residents. Finally, the brief also refers to Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, the case that determined that states hold authority in health-related policies and overturned federal abortion rights by adopting adult use laws. The state would no longer maintain the health-related authority. So this battle in Florida brings me back to the arguments that were made in California before our adult use initiative. Although these folks have their act together, they're submitting briefs to the state Supreme Court and have the state attorney general on their side. I support adult use, or I prefer calling it over-the-counter use. However, in California, we regret passing Prop 64. Industry was not ready. Overtaxation and the lack of federal legalization forced legacy cultivators out of business or back into the illegal market. For medical patients, that meant the quality of accessible products went down and the costs went up. I'm recommending against adult use in Florida. Make Trulieve, figure out how to ensure medical cannabis patients don't pay a sin tax for the adult use over-the-counter market like we are in California. Who would you support, Trulieve or My Florida Green and the state AG? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand for High 9 News.
Man, this is an interesting situation going on over there in Florida. Dr. T, this is a whole
feels like Biden or Trump. Pick one.
Yeah, this is like a whole
I was gonna
twist.
say we got giant douche versus a turd sandwich.
Yeah,
going on here. You gotta pick one of them.
I was arguing this 8 years ago in California, saying bring on legalization, but you're forgetting our patients, and we're hurting now.
Prop 64 could have done so much better, and I agree with you. They had every opportunity to get good policy, and I am still bitter and angry about that, right along with you, Dr. Talleyrand. I think we can have responsible use, and that's what I've kind of switched to, adult use, medicinal use. What we're really talking about is responsible use. And I think that there is a way for adults to choose cannabis over alcohol or cigarettes without necessarily making it a medical condition or worrying about getting pulled over on the way home and having it in their trunk. So I think the intention of how to protect patients in the policy is what has been lacking. It's not the policy of adult legalization so much as how it has been approached by those that didn't understand the consequences. And frankly, I was on the inside of the rooms. They didn't care. They just wanted a win in the column. They did not give a shit what the policy looked like or became later. And they all promised, we'll come back and help you fix it. It's up to us to keep demanding what you're talking about, Dr. Talleyrand.
You're so right about that, Dale. So right about that.
The people lose again. Except for in Ohio this week.
Except for in Ohio this
people
week.
won in Ohio.
Yeah, they did.
You gotta give, I'm not really, I don't know, Troy's not in the audience today, but I don't really give too much props to Ohio ever, but big props to Ohio, and the people won this week.
Yeah, they did.
So,
I think one of the main reasons they won is because everybody was so mad about the big loss to Michigan.
Yeah, maybe that's what we got.
I think that contributed to the underlying eventuality.
Sports and weed bring people together, man.
Yeah, they do.
Two things that bring people together.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned competition.
I'll agree.
That's facts.
Yes. All right, so on that, I know we're a little overtime today, but thank you all for joining us for yet another week of High at 9 News. You can always catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans showing love, getting our comments posted live on the big screen, to our live audience and online supporters, catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table as well. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, Big Adam holding things down behind the scenes, keeping our lights on, and our AV struggles to a minimum. As always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason we show up to read these stories every single day. Thank you too, baby girl. And you guys know what? It's Friday, December 8th. The first full week of December is in the books. And you've been blessed with the top industry headlines of December so far. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until Monday. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. Signing off for High at 9 News. And we're going to give it to Dr. T. I know you had a little technical difficulties today. Got a little positivity for the people. You going to leave us with over the weekend?
Yeah. Let's remember during the holidays that there are those out there still suffering from illness, and good cheer, hang out with your family, and remember those that are less fortunate than you. And
don't forget, Dr. T, you got to tell them to support the crossfade.
Yeah, no fade like the crossfade.
That's right.
We need more studies.
That's right. So study with your relatives this holiday season. Study the crossfade.
Study the crossfade, right.